tell it like it is. I always did.
Okay, Papa. What's your full name?
Elwood Gizmo Mann.
No, it's not Gizmo.
Elwood Elmer.
Elmer.
Elmer Fudd, you know them.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 39. Oh, well, I'm trying to get close.
39.
93.
93. And where were you born?
In Coatesville, Pennsylvania. 225 West Diamond Street, Coatesville, Pennsylvania. And I went to Charles Street School there. But then we moved in town and got on Kersey Street. Lived there most of my life.
What's your mom and your dad's name?
Her name was Alice Sarah McLaughlin. That's her maiden name. My dad's name was Charles Andrew Mann. And my mom's name was Minnie McLaughlin.
Mitty?
Minnie.
Oh,
M-I-N-N-I-E.
Oh, like Minnie Mouse.
Yeah, that's what it was. And her dad's name was John. And he got hit by a black guy in a car and killed him.
Oh, really?
And it was nothing. Back then, you didn't do anything. You couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
When he was killed, then she had a brother, Harry, and a brother, Howard. Now, Howard was the one that he delivered ice, like 100-pound chunks of ice. He'd cut them up in 50-pound pieces.
That's right, because there's no refrigerators, right?
Right.
You had the
We had
little
ice boxes.
Ice boxes, yeah. Oh, wow.
And you had a water pan underneath the ice box. When it melts, you got to empty it every morning.
That's right. Wow. Do you know how your mom and dad, do you know how they met?
How many what?
How did they meet? Your mom and dad.
God, I don't know.
You don't know?
No. That's a lot, so many stories I could tell you about my parents, but it's hard to do. I remember one thing my dad did with my Uncle Frank. They had this quartered beef. Well, Frank was bigger than my dad, but he didn't have the beef. My dad had quartered beef on his shoulder, and they were both running like hell out of the field, and there's farmers out there that with a shotgun shooting at them.
Oh my gosh. Did they have like a dream house or like a dream car that they like wanted?
No.
No, nothing like
Nothing,
that.
just living. Well, how could you do with 9 kids?
I know, that's a lot of kids, I know.
You can't dream about anything but keeping them alive.
Did you have a favorite holiday or tradition when you were little?
When I was little. Nothing really favorite. My brother and I was young. There was a window at street level to our basement, and my dad bought us 2 BB rifles. This other kid outside spit tubed us, in the back of our heads. There, and we were aiming at the opposite wall. So I told Chuck, I said, Chuck, teach him a lesson. We quick turned around and shot. Well, we didn't aim. One of us hit one kid right close to the eye. My dad come in, took our BB guns and destroyed him. That was the end of that. No Christmas present. But it taught that kid a lesson.
Yeah.
My dad was a rough guy too.
Were you closer to your mom or your dad?
Well, my mother, I loved her. I called her Miss 5x5 because she was short and heavy. She'd get me in a corner and be tickling me, and she knew I was ticklish. I was close to both of them because my dad, I worked for him, and him and I were like brothers.
How many siblings do you have?
How many what?
Siblings.
Siblings?
Brothers and sisters. How many do you have?
How many do I have?
I don't know. I
don't
only
know
know
either.
2.
Yeah, you only know 2. On my side, there's 9 of us. There was my brother Charles, which he was 2 years older than me. It was me. And then it was Eddie. He died in his 50s. And then it was Dolores, the girl.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It was, her name was Mary. She died when she was 2 years old. She slid off the high chair. She slid down, broke her leg, and the doctor came up. He said, "Oh, it just sprained. It wasn't, it was broke."
Oh, no.
And it got gangrene. She died from it.
Oh, wow.
And back then,
Yeah, it's hard.
what can you do about it? You don't do nothing. But anyway, it was her, then Dolores, then Margie, then Dottie, and then Marlon. And Dottie and Marlon are still alive.
What about Uncle Raymond? He's your brother, right?
Is he? I don't know. Yeah, that's right. He is my brother.
After Eddie. Okay.
Eddie and then Raymond and then Dolores and
Okay.
then.
Okay.
But they're each one is approximately 2 years apart.
Oh wow. Okay, so you guys are close.
Yeah, my dad didn't have much time to work. He was
Oh,
in the bed all the time.
Oh no. And they're still in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Well,
And-
Marlon has a place out in the country, like where the Amish live and all, out by the farms. And Dottie, she lives in 2 doors down from where my mother lived on Harmony Street.
Mm-hmm.
So she's the one that found my mother dead.
What kind of house did you guys grow up in? Did you guys all have to share bedrooms, or did you have your own room?
On Kersey Street, where we lived,
Mm-hmm.
brought up, rented this house on Kersey Street, right on the corner. You know how these houses come in 4, 2 here, 2 here, then 4 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we lived at 219 and a half. My dad worked for other people, and he learned to be an electrician. He put in electricity from the basement clear to the attic. And he would put, I think it was $12 a month he paid rent.
What?
Wow.
$12 a month.
Wow.
That's 90 years ago now.
Yeah,
You don't do
I
that now.
know.
I walked to school. It was
Mhm.
about 4 blocks away.
Oh, that's close.
So, Gordon Junior High School. Every report I got on history and geography,
Mm-hmm.
I get F's.
Oh.
You give me math, I was smart in math.
Yeah.
Mr. O'Malley, I'll never forget him. He was behind us, you know, and I had my buddies right next to me, and I was doing my contest there, and then I would slip it over to Frank, and you know, then slip it over there, and they would take the answers, you know. And he
Nice.
caught us.
Oh no.
He took their heads like this, and he was trying to bang them against my head. But you know, my dad knew everything that I did.
Oh really?
So Mr. O'Malley, he reported to my dad.
Oh no.
They were good friends.
That's
But-
funny.
You know, you couldn't get away with anything.
Service, it was a draft, like you had to go.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
I was 18 at the time. When I was in training, we had guys that couldn't even bend over far enough to their knees, let alone touch their ankles.
And you
Oh,
still
wow.
had to go.
On exercise, and they still had to go.
Wow.
Back then it was war, and it was to protect the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to kick any man, woman, or child. So many of these guys was worse off than I was.
Yeah.
I got medals, you know, like sharpshooting medals and all. Well, I was a hunter when I was young. I went out hunting for rabbits, squirrels, and whatever. When I was in the service, they put me in cooking, butcher, and baking. And I was a cook down there. Put me in there first.
Wow.
I didn't want to be a cook. Before we shipped out of Virginia, they put me over with the officers' mess. The officers, they had to pay for their meals. I would do all the cooking for them. Me and another fellow. When I got orders to ship out with the other 10 guys, they didn't want me to go, but I had to go. There was only 11 of us that took training in engineering. We went up in the mountains of Virginia, and they had to bring me home because my heels were frozen. We used to lay landmines, and we'd have to go out and hunt the landmines too in the snow. There was 11 of us that went, and they were from Kentucky and New Jersey and all different places. Roy Combs, I'll never forget him. He's a little short guy. Come up, I'm short, and he came up to my shoulders. His uncle was a sheriff in Kentucky. He said, when you come to my place, he said, you don't go up in the hills. You won't return. The hillbillies, they were killers to start with. Getting an argument in a card game, well, I took all the rifles away from them because they were going after each other. And I took the rifle and then hit them. But over on Lady Island, you know, the huts there were on stilts. And they're straw huts, you know. And they've sold this tuba. They come in brown beer bottles about this tall. This one time, Tennessee, he's a big, tall guy. He came back to us and he said, okay, guys, bring your machetes. So we went out down to this hut, and the guy in there sold him the tuba. It's supposed to be alcohol. It's gas. And he took a big drink of it and everything, you know, and then that's why he come back and got us. He said, just stay outside, chop on these stilts, and I'm going to be inside. Boy, he ruined that place. He was so P.O. The Filipino, though, he was in to make a buck, and it didn't matter how. He thought he could get away with that, but these guys are mean. I got to know the Filipinos real nice. I had a gal, so she would take my clothes down there and beat them on the rock and would clean them up and everything. Like I had some Japanese prisoners that worked for me. They said, we don't want to do any more here than you do. They're taught to fight, kill or be killed. They didn't want to be there. Some of them were really bloodthirsty, same as our people. Some of our guys were bloodthirsty. I don't blame one or the other. The war is hell.
When did you move out of Pennsylvania?
Out of Pennsylvania? Oh, well, 62. I did move the family, but there was no work back there. I come out here. I was going to architecture school. I was working in a machine shop. So when I come out here, I got a job at a punch press, and I got sick of it because I'm sitting there like this, piece of metal going through the punch and punching for computers. Every 2 hours, we had to get up, clean all the scrap metal on the floor and all. Then we'd have coffee and donuts. In the afternoon, you did the same thing. I was so friggin' bored. I quit. And I went to union, making more in the union. I was getting $4 an hour. This guy was a paint salesman. This guy fired 30 guys at a time. He became a contractor making homes. It was a track of homes. It was like 200-300 homes, track of homes. They called it track of homes. You had to do so many houses a day. It didn't matter how good you were or anything. Just do them.
Put them up.
And then at the end of the day, they said, well, I'm sorry, guys. Don't need you anymore. You fired all of us.
Wow.
So you were one of them that got fired.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then I got with a good contractor, and we did insurance work, where you had to take your time, do the job right, and keep it clean, you know, and all that good stuff. I worked for a couple of contractors. Then I did a lot of work of my own. I did work down in Santa Clara here for Bill Higgins. He was an architect. He owned a lot of homes in Santa Clara. The other guy, I can't think of his name, but he was a businessman. He had computers even down L.A. and all over businesses. But once they got me to do a job for them, they said, "What, you just get down here and do this?" I would do it. And they had no question. They knew it. I was honest. I would do it. I wanted to make a buck, but I didn't want to steal it from them. When I learned to paint with my dad, we did gold leafing in business doors, and, you know, we did everything.
So was that your favorite job, painting? Was that your favorite job, was being a painter?
Not favorite so much as the living.
What was your favorite job you ever had?
My favorite job? Let me think. Quitting. Is that nice?
Oh, that's funny. What was the worst job you ever had?
The worst job was that salesman.
The sales guy, yeah.
But I had no problem with contractors because I was running work for them, and then they knew what I could do, and he said, "You did a good job, and I appreciate it." So I kind of liked doing painting to the point that don't rush me.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a decent job. I liked it that way.
How old were you when you got married?
How old when I think I was, let me see, 16. I was 22, I think. No, had to be more than that. Well, Betty was the first one, Betty Kaufroth.
And how old were you?
She was 16. I married a baby, but I was 22.
Oh.
We got divorced because she liked the younger guy. I was working, and I was putting money in building and loan. I had money in the bank, and I was also had money in her sister's little baby, an account for her. And I was saving money to build the house. Come to find out, my people that I was renting from, they said, do you know what's going on here? And I said, yeah, why? And they said, well, Betty's going out with this guy, and he's coming and picking her up. Well, I didn't know anything. I waited one night on her, and I was down at the corner, and I seen where she come home. I got in my car. Well, I had a heavy Ford that really went fast. So I drove down the road behind him, and I was going to kill him. Really.
Oh, no.
I had that in mind.
Oh,
And I got right up, within a few feet of his car. And my brain clicked. I said, what am I doing? It's her fault, not his. And I went back. She wouldn't want me in the bathroom. She's in the bathroom. And I took the doorknob and I said, let me in. She said, no, took that door. And somehow or another, I tore it and the hinges broke off. So when I went in there, she had long blonde hair, and I reached her down and pulled it up out of and I remember hitting her once. She said, no, you hit me. That's the first time I ever hit a girl in my life. But I said, she deserved it.
Yeah, like, don't cheat on me.
You know, after that, the next morning, we got up, and I was talking to Betty, and I said, look, I don't want you in the house. I said, you want to get your ass out of here, and I don't want you back. When she left, first thing I did was went to the bank and took everything out. Didn't have anything. But anyway, the second time I come home from work, I thought she was gone for good. But she backed her a big semi up there and took every piece of furniture out of the house. And I had a brand new antenna for the TV up on the roof. I had a brand new tank in the bottom under the house. She sold it to my landlord. I told the landlord, I said, you know, you can't buy that. That's mine. I liked them. And I said, don't worry about it. It's yours. It's settled. But she took everything. She took a little .22 rifle that I had. It's an antique, about that long, single shot. She took a lot of my coins that I was saving in a chest.
What happened to her?
Well, she's dead now. My cousin, my brother's boy, he called over there and said, well, Betty would like to talk to you, Elwood. I said, you tell Betty, get another jerk. She wanted to talk to me because we got a divorce. I wouldn't sign the divorce papers went first because I said, let her suffer. I don't care. I'm not getting married. And I said, I'm not signing no papers. But then my mother told me, she said, why don't you let her go and get it off your mind. And finally, after a couple of years, I said, okay. So I signed the papers. I didn't care.
How did you and Grammy meet?
Where you and Grammy, me and my mother? Your mother and I met in a gold bowling alley.
No, my Grammy. Your
Your wife.
Your wife.
My wife?
Yeah, Amelia.
Oh, not my Grammy, it's my wife. Yeah,
That's my
I made
Grammy.
We were both drunks.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. I used to belong to the Moose Club back east. I was a bartender, and there was a room behind the big bar room that we all played cards. Amelia's cousin, he was crippled, and he played cards with us. And I told him, I said, who's that girl out there at the bar? And he said, oh, that's only my cousin Amelia. And I knew Amelia's aunt, and then her aunt went to school with my mother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's how we got to talking, and then that's how I met Amelia. And we'd dance and things like that. And then I'd make arrangements for some other time, later and all. And we started going together. But Amelia had an apartment in Coastville where I lived.
Oh.
So she got sick, and I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a hold of the doctor, and then I paid for her medications and everything because she was sick in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked in a women's clothing store. I mean, after a while, she got better, and then we started going together, and whatever happened, happened.
How did you ask her to marry you?
I never had. I don't think I asked her.
You didn't ask her? You just
No,
got
we
married?
didn't.
You didn't want to sign the papers.
It happened that we both got together and said to get married. Well, she made a date at one time later on, and I said, nah. I said, let's get married. February 22nd, George Washington's birthday. So that's what we did. She blamed it all on me. But she was something.
How many kids do you have?
Oh, no. How many real kids of mine? Not grandkids.
How many kids do you know that you have?
Yeah, that's another question. Well, your dad, and Becky, and Patty.
Yeah.
3 of them. Each one of them had 2 kids. 2 boys, 2 girls, and 2 girls.
Yeah. Do you have a funny or embarrassing story about Auntie Becky or my dad or Auntie Patty?
The funniest story? I don't know of anything. One day at the dinner table, Mark and Becky was up there. And when you're eating at the dinner table, you keep your mouth shut if you can't talk about what you did during the day. At this one day at the dinner table, they were doing that and arguing. I automatically went and split Mark's lip.
Oh.
I felt worse than he did.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I never hit my kids. That's the first and only time. Mark, he would go out playing with the guys, all the boys out front. I would open up the window in the kitchen and I'd whistle.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You'd whistle for them to come home.
All the guys would say, Mark, you better get home. One time his mother told him, said, wait till your daddy comes home. Well, I'm the bad guy, So anyway, I come home all good and happy and everything. They told me what happened. It wasn't a big deal, but whatever it was. But I told him, I said, son, you go to your bedroom and get prepared. Went back to his bedroom, he dropped his pants and everything, was kneeling on the floor across the bed and waiting on me to beat the crap out of him, I guess. I went in and I told him, I said, son, pull up your clothes. I talked to him for a long time, telling him what's right and what's wrong, and what he shouldn't do and what he should do. And, well, he was a little guy, but I never had a problem with him since. Only now.
Since then.
He's a pain. No,
funny.
I'm kidding.
How did you feel about raising kids? What was the best part and what was the hardest part?
The hardest part is making money. I always wanted to I gave them everything they wanted. Like Mark and Becky, one Christmas, where we lived in Milpitas, I built a shed. It was all enclosed. So I bought them 2 tall bicycles. And he was a teenager then. But anyway, I bought him bicycles. And Christmas Eve, I went out there and unlocked the lock, and got in the shed and took one of the bicycles out. Well, I used to ride a bicycle, and I'd run, jump on them, no, don't do that. I run with the bike, jumped on, and I got like a crutch for myself. I said, never again.
Do you think I'm like my dad? Do you think me and my dad are alike?
You and your dad?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're more like your dad than your mother.
Really? Why? How so?
Just, your actions. Your mother is more quiet.
Yes.
And she lives in the kitchen. You're a complete opposite. Just like your sister,
Yeah.
complete opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think my dad is like you? Do you think you guys are alike?
No, I think I'm worse than he is.
Why?
He's too mellow.
He's too mellow?
I was brought up to fight. I would go in the bar, and if somebody stepped on your foot, you would rammed him. That's the way. You don't say, excuse me.
Oh, That's funny. Did he get in fights when he was little? In high school and stuff?
No,
No?
he never liked to fight. You know, even when he was young, Becky fought for him. A guy was picking on him down in Milpitas, and Becky went out there and took care of it.
Wow.
Yeah, Becky's a fighter.
She is, yeah. Oh, yeah.
She's more man than she is girl.
Yeah. She is a fighter, that's for sure.
My dad was a fighter. I have a brother, Eddie, that died. He never drank, never smoked, never did anything. He died when he was 57. Heart trouble. And he was a quiet one. He never come over hardly to mom and dad or anything. You know, he stayed to himself. Him and Verna was the same way. I don't know. I would never that close to Eddie because he was too quiet. He was just a brother.
Which brother were you closest to? Charles? Raymond. Yeah.
He's always close to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it come about, but I always called him Hap all of his life. And Hap was coming out. See that guy down there on the steps? He said something or other, you know. But Hap, he jumped off the step and hit the guy, and the kid turned run home. Another day, we didn't have dope and all this crap. We had to fight our way around.
If you could go back in time and change one thing, what would it be and why?
The way I lived. There's things that I did I wish I never did. Just like getting drunk and all that stuff. It's stupid. There are a lot of things that I would change if I could, but you can't change your life. So you live the way you are. Like now, I tell it like it is, and that's it. If you don't like it, get the hell out.
Did you ever travel anywhere? Have you traveled outside of like the United States to another country?
Not in other countries, just
for
the
the war.
Philippines.
Just for the war, right?
Yeah, during the war.
The Philippines.
Well, other than that, why would I want to go see another tree? Got them here. Why don't you go to Hawaii? I said, why? To see the ocean and the trees, and I said, here.
What's your favorite memory of a trip that you took or vacation?
For vacations?
Mm-hmm.
Monterey.
Monterey, that's your favorite.
That's our favorite. Well,
Okay.
both Millie and I.
That's right.
That's where her ashes are.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But,
she loves
you know,
Monterey.
It was a place that didn't take a lot of money. We enjoyed just going through the shops, eating down on the wharf. We went down there, oh, hell, must be 2 or 3 times a month. It was nice. She wanted to get her ashes down there,
Yeah.
and that's what we did.
Yeah. What has been your favorite age so far?
My favorite age? Let me think. My favorite age, I got to go back 93 years now. I don't know. I just lived the way I wanted to live, and that wasn't nothing favorite about it.
No?
You fought through life, you liked the life, and whatever. My favorite age was, I think, when I was living with my mother and dad. And I liked doing things for them. And I always was helping my dad and then helping my mother. And I never cared about money. When I was in the service, you did the same thing here. You fought for life. I just, lived a good life.
Yeah.
I get drunk, I get sober, and then, so what? I'm smarting up. I got smart. It costs money to do that, and you end up with a headache.
That's true.
True.
What has been your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge.
I don't know. Well, in the service, that's hard. When you're training, they don't care. And you wallow in the mud or climb under and they shot machine guns across your head. It was a big challenge because it's survival. And I come home and hear my son's married a little Japanese girl.
I know. What did you think?
I told him, I said, she's my lovely little girl.
What about your biggest success? What do you think?
I never was successful. I went and I graduated from college, from architectural drafting. I was in a marble tournament down Central Park, which was right across the street from where I lived. I come in second.
Is there anything you still want to do or learn that you haven't done already?
And not that I want to do, I really want to hit the lottery. Not for me, because I'm too old to use it, but I sure as hell make my family happy.
What do you hope for the future for yourself and for your family?
Well, not for myself. I have no future. It's done. I live my life. I mean, what am I going to live for? I mean, I'm pouring out
Day to day.
no money, no nothing, and I live in a trashy trailer and whatever. What do you want?
But what do you want for your family?
What about your family?
For the future?
For my family? For all of you, if I would hit the lottery, I wouldn't buy you nothing. I would give you enough money you wouldn't have to worry about a job.
Ooh, that'd be nice. What's your secret? How did you get to be a young 39-year-old?
That's what everybody asked me. I said, hell, I drank all my life and smoked 2 packs of cigarettes all my life, and they said, it kept me alive. And I tell people, how'd you start smoking or drinking? Didn't you use this? You didn't take a pill or anything, did you? You used this. Stop using that, and then you won't have to worry about that. Your brain controls you. Don't listen to other people.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
The biggest one, don't listen to people.
Don't listen to people.
And the biggest lesson was drinking, smoking. That's a lesson that takes years to cure.
Oh, you know what? I have a question, because I never met Brittany's grandma, your wife.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
never met her. Can you describe her for me?
She's a quiet, off to the point. You mean your grandmother?
Mm-hmm.
She was really quiet. Now, her husband, he was,
Her husband. You?
You?
huh?
You?
Oh, you talking about, oh, I thought you meant your grandmother.
Yeah, my grandma, Amelia.
Oh, Amelia.
Yeah.
How about your mother's grandmother?
Your wife. Tell me
Oh,
about her.
my wife? What'd you want?
Describe her.
Describe her.
Describe her? 48 years, I mean, can you remember? How can you describe her? She's soft-hearted, smart as a whip. She was a good cook. She was a good woman. We used to do things together, which a lot of people don't. Some people in here, they're married, but they go on vacations by themselves. That's no fun. You gotta have somebody talk to or chew out or do something with it. Your grandmother and I was always together, but there's nothing special about it, just that we lived together.
What was your favorite memory of her?
My favorite memory, she would be talking to me and I'm watching TV, and she said, "You're not listening to me." I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "You're watching TV." I said, "I don't hear from my eyes. I'm listening in my ears." She'd get so pissed off at me.
Why don't you tell us about Brittany?
About me? Oh yeah. What's your favorite memory of me?
When you were a baby.
When I couldn't speak.
Little Buddha baby.
Little Buddha baby.
She was always my baby, though. You can't tell somebody else how to live. They try to tell me how to live. You know, I never listen to nobody. Even when we had coffee up here, they'll say, "Uh-oh, what is that again?" I'd be the opposite of what they want. I tell it like it is. I always did. Okay, bye-bye.
Perfect.